Britain wakes every morning without a single legal gallows left standing. The chambers are museums or storage rooms. The ropes are exhibits under glass or ashes scattered to the wind. The word hanging is spoken only in history lessons and nightmares. And somewhere, a quiet old man's work is finished. Albert Pierrepoint has been dead 33 years, but every time a British judge says life imprisonment instead of death, every time a campaign succeeds in another country to end capital punishment, every time a child learns that once upon a time the state killed its own people and then stopped, Albert is there. Not as a hero, not as a monster, only as the man who was so good at death that Britain finally saw what perfection looked like and chose never to do it again. The rope that shaped justice was never the hemp. It was the doubt that one hangman carried for every single one of the 608 souls he sent through the trap. He gave them all perfect deaths, quick, clean, merciful. And in giving them perfection, he proved that no death is ever perfect enough to be called justice. He hanged Nazis and housewives, traitors and teenagers, the guilty and the innocent with the same steady hands. And when he finally laid down the white coat, he took the moral weight of every drop and carried it to his grave so that no one else would ever have to. Today, in courtrooms from London to Glasgow, judges pronounce life sentences without ever knowing that the quiet space where the words death used to be was carved out by one man's lifetime of perfect, terrible mercy. The rope is gone. The echo remains. In every life spared, in every scaffold dismantled, in every gone that no longer begins with the sound of a trapdoor falling and a neck snapping at exactly the right second. Albert Pierrepoint did not end capital punishment. He perfected it until perfection became unbearable, and Britain chose mercy over the perfect drop. The rope that shaped justice was not made of hemp. It was made of 608 questions that finally had only one answer: never again. Albert Pierrepoint, the boy who played with nooses, the hangman who never missed, the man who questioned the rope and won. He is dead. The rope is dead. But the echo of 608 perfect drops still falls through every courtroom in every nation that has ever chosen life over the perfect, terrible mercy of the long drop. And in the silence where screams used to be, you can still hear one quiet Yorkshire voice whispering to every condemned soul who will never stand on a trap again: you are safe now. It is over. It will never happen again. The rope is cut. The echo is eternal. And justice finally learned to live without killing. 1992 to 2025. Southport Cemetery, then the quiet museums of Britain. Albert Pierrepoint is gone. The rope is ash, but 608 drops still echo. The white coat hangs in the Crime Museum at New Scotland Yard, folded perfectly, one faint chalk mark still visible on the cuff. The Home Office drop table is framed in the National Justice Museum, Nottingham, next to a single coil of manila rope under glass. The plaque reads, Used by Albert Pierrepoint, 1932 to 1956. 608 executions, all instantaneous. No mention of doubt. No mention of Ruth Ellis. No mention of the 13 later cleared. Only the numbers, cold, perfect, silent. In courtrooms across Britain, judges now say life instead of death. No one stands on a trapdoor anymore. No one waits for the clock to strike 8. No one feels the gentle hands of a hangman who only wanted them not to suffer. The chambers are empty. Holloway's green room is a storage cupboard. Strangeway's scaffold was dismantled in 1964, the wood sold for firewood. Wandsworth's beam is now a roof support in a garden center. The rope is gone, but the memory is not. In pubs where old warders drink, they still lower their voices when his name is spoken. In prisons where lifers serve whole life tariffs, some whisper, Pierrepoint would have made it quicker. In Parliament, when they debate bringing back hanging, every few years someone tries. An old MP stands and reads Albert's final words. Capital punishment achieves nothing except revenge. The motion fails. Every time. In schools, children learn about the last woman hanged. They learn about the campaign. They never learn the hangman's name. He wanted it that way. In 2025, a young criminology student finds the rope under glass. She reads the plaque. She asks the guide, "Who was he?" The guide answers, "The best we ever had, and the last we ever needed." She stares at the rope for a long time. Then she walks away. The legacy of 608 drops is not in museums. It is in the silence where screams used to be. It is in every life sentence that is not a death sentence. It is in every dawn that no longer begins with the sound of a trapdoor falling. Albert Pierrepoint did not end capital punishment. He perfected it so completely that Britain finally saw what perfection looked like and turned away in horror. 608 perfect drops, 0 suffering, and one man who carried the weight until it crushed. 1965 to 1992. Southport, Lancashire. A quiet bungalow by the Irish Sea. Albert Pierrepoint is 60, retired, ordinary. He walks the beach every morning at dawn, coat collar up, hands in pockets, watching gulls wheel over gray water. The rope is locked in a trunk under the stairs. He has not touched it in 9 years, but it touches him every night. He dreams of faces, not the monsters, the ordinary ones. The boy who cried for his mother, the woman who asked for lipstick, the man who said thank you as the cap came down. He wakes sweating, heart hammering, the sound of a trapdoor in his ears. Annie finds him one morning sitting at the kitchen table with the black notebook open. Every page filled with names, weights, drops. All perfect, all dead. She asks, "Why do you keep it?" He answers, "To remember
what I can never forget. In 1974, he agrees to write his memoirs. He tells the ghostwriter, "I want the truth out, all of it." The book is called Executioner, Pierrepoint. It is published in 1974. In it, he writes the sentence that ends his life's work. "After 608 executions, I have come to the conclusion that the death penalty achieves nothing but revenge. All the men and women I hanged would have been no more deterrent dead than alive in prison. I was wrong. Capital punishment is murder. The country is stunned. The man who was once the pride of British justice now calls himself a murderer. Reporters swarm Southport. They want sensation. He gives them silence. One young journalist corners him on the beach. 'Mr. Pierrepoint, you hanged Nazis, child killers, traitors. How can you say it was wrong?' Albert looks out at the sea for a long time. Then he answers, 'I gave every one of them a perfect death. Quick, clean, merciful. And not one of them ever thanked me, because death is never mercy, only the illusion of it.' He walks away. The journalist never prints the quote. It is too honest. Albert spends his last years refusing interviews, refusing fame, refusing to be celebrated. He tells the few friends who remain, 'I was the best hangman Britain ever had. That is nothing to be proud of.' He visits prisons as a tourist, stands in empty chambers, touches the old beams where ropes once hung. He places flowers on graves of men he hanged who were later cleared. There are 13 by 1992. He never speaks their names aloud. He only leaves white lilies and walks away. In 1985, a documentary crew finds him. They ask, 'Do you regret any of it?' He answers, 'I regret all of it, and none of it. I did my duty, but duty can be the cruelest master.' He dies on July 10, 1992, age 87. Quietly, in his sleep. The rope is still in the trunk. He asked that it be burned with him. Annie obeys. The flames take 40 minutes, longer than any drop he ever gave. At the funeral, only 12 people attend. No press, no cameras. Just old warders, a few regulars from the pub, and Annie. One old warder says, 'He was the best we ever had.' Another answered, 'He was the last we ever needed.' The man who questioned the rope spent the second half of his life trying to untie the knot he had tied around his own soul. He never succeeded. But he tried, every day, until the day he died. Albert Pierrepoint, the boy who played with nooses, the hangman who perfected death, the man who finally admitted that perfection can still be wrong. He lived long enough to see Britain cut the rope he once served. And in his final mercy, the country gave him to let him die free of the job that never quite let him go. 1932 to 1956. Every execution chamber in Britain. Albert Pierrepoint's private cathedral. He enters alone the night before, white coat folded over his arm like a priest's vestment. The rope lies on the table. Best Italian hemp, 1 inch thick, boiled in water, waxed, tested on sandbags until it runs like silk. He strokes it once, the way a violinist touches his bow. Then he begins the ritual. First, the table. Home Office Table of Drops, 1913 edition, memorized to the 1/4 inch. He writes the prisoner's weight in his black notebook. He calculates the drop. He chalks the exact spot on the rope. He tests with a sandbag of identical weight. He times the swing. He adjusts. He tests again. He never guesses. He never rushes. He never fails. Second, the pinioning straps, soft leather, no metal buckles to bruise. Left wrist to left ankle, right wrist to right ankle. Elbow belt, 17 seconds flat. Third, the white cap, cotton, soft, pulled gently over the eyes. Never the face. He refuses to cover the face until the last second. He wants them to see him. He wants them to know it is a man, not a monster, doing this. Fourth, the noose. He places it with 2 fingers slack, eye behind the left ear for men, right for women. He tightens it with the care of a watchmaker setting a balance wheel. Fifth, the walk. Slow, measured, no hurry. He supports the prisoner's elbow if they stumble. He never lets them fall before the trap. Sixth, the lever. He pulls it with the same calm he uses to pour a pint. The trap falls. The rope sings. The neck snaps. Silence. Then the soft creak of rope on beam. He counts the swing. 1 minute, 21 seconds average. He signs the certificate. Instantaneous. He never lies. He never boasts. He only says, when asked, how he can do it. Because if it must be done, let it be done with mercy. He gives every condemned man a last cigarette if they want it. He lights it for them. He lets them finish. He offers a glass of rum or brandy. He grants every reasonable request. One man asks to fix his tie. Albert holds the mirror. One woman asks to die with her rosary. Albert places it in her bound hands. One Nazi doctor asks to face the wall. Albert refuses. Regulation is regulation. But he lets the man turn his head. Mercy in method. He never lets them suffer, not once, not in 608 executions. He develops the Pierrepoint technique. Long drop, submental knot, soft rope, no choke, no decapitation. Just the clean, quiet snap of justice. Other hangmen copy him. The Home Office makes it official. He becomes the standard by which all British execution is measured. He trains his assistants personally. He drills them until they can pinion in 15 seconds blindfolded. He tells them, the prisoner is a human being until the lever falls. Treat him as such. He never raises his voice. He never shows fear. He never lets the rope jerk. He never lets the body spin. He stands in the pit afterward and checks the neck himself. Always perfect, always clean, always merciful. He keeps a private code. No publicity, no photographs, no boasting, no hate, only duty, only craft, only the quiet pride of a job done so perfectly that even the dead cannot complain. The hangman's code is not written in law. It is written in chalk on rope and in the silence after the trap falls. Albert Pierrepoint lived by it for 33 years and 608 lives. He died by it when he finally admitted that even the perfect drop is still a drop into darkness. Mercy in method was all he ever had to offer the condemned, and in the end it was not enough to save the hangman from himself.
December 13, 1945, 9:34 a.m. Hamelin Prison Gymnasium, British Zone, Germany. Snow falls thick outside the windows. Inside, a triple gallows stands like a dark altar. 11 condemned stand on the traps in 2 rows. Joseph Kramer, Irma Gracie, Elizabeth Volkenroth, Weine Bormann, and 7 others. All wore the black and silver of the SS. All ran Belsen. All are responsible for 50,000 murders. Albert Pierrepoint, 40, stands in front, white coat, face carved from ice. He has hanged 198 people before breakfast. Today he will hang 11 before lunch. He works like a priest performing a mass execution. He starts with Kramer, the beast of Belsen. Kramer is shaking, eyes darting. Albert fits the pinioning straps. Kramer whispers in broken English, "Will it be quick?" Albert answers, "Quicker than your victims." He places the white cap. He slips the noose. He steps back. Next, Irma Gracie, 22, blonde, beautiful, unrepentant. She asks for a cigarette. Albert lights it. She smiles. "Thank you, Englishman." He fits the cap. She does not flinch. He fits the noose. Next, Volkenroth, Bormann, the rest. All calm, all professional, all perfect. British officers stand in silence, faces green. Albert raises his hand. The commanding officer nods. Albert pulls 3 levers at once. 3 traps crash open. 11 bodies drop. 11 ropes sing. 11 necks snap in perfect, terrible harmony. Silence. Then the soft creak of rope on beam. 11 bodies hang still. Snow falls outside. Albert counts the swings. Average 1 minute 21 seconds. He signs 11 certificates. He drinks tea with the officers. He does not speak. He does not smile. He only feels the same quiet satisfaction he felt after his first drop in 1932. The job is done, cleanly, mercifully, perfectly. The officers ask, "How can you stay so calm?" Albert answers, "Because this is justice, not revenge, and justice must be clean."
He repeats the ritual 13 more times over 13 months, 202 names, all guilty, all perfect drops. He never raises his voice, he never shows hate, he never refuses a last cigarette. When a condemned doctor from Auschwitz begs for mercy, Albert answers, "Mercy is what I give you, the rope is the mercy." He hangs him anyway. When Irma Gracie asks to die with her hair uncovered, he refuses. Regulation cap, regulation drop, regulation death. In October 1946, he hangs the last one, a doctor who injected children with petrol. The man is crying so hard he cannot stand. Albert holds him up with one arm while fitting the noose with the other. He whispers, "It's over." The drop is perfect. Albert packs his bag for the final time in Germany. He walks out of Hamelin prison into a snow that has not stopped falling since 1945. He lights a cigarette. A British officer approaches. "How many was it, Pierrepoint?" Albert answers without looking back, "Enough." He sails home. He never returns to Germany. He never speaks of those 13 months. But every night for the rest of his life, when he closes his eyes, he sees 11 ropes hanging in perfect silence against a background of snow that will never quite melt. The Nazi war criminals met their end at the hands of a man who treated them with the same professional care he gave to every petty thief in Leeds, because to Albert Pierrepoint, evil weighed the same as innocence on the scales of justice, and the rope never asked what the man had done, only how much he weighed and how far he had to fall to make the world a little cleaner.
1946 to 1950. The sun never sets on British justice, and neither does Albert Pierrepoint. The War Office calls again. Not Germany this time. The colonies. Gibraltar, Malta, Cyprus, Egypt, Aden. Graces where the Union Jack still flies, and the rope is still law. Albert packs the same black bag. He kisses Annie goodbye. He sails on troop ships with the same calm he carried to Hamelin. First stop, Gibraltar, 1948. A British soldier murdered a comrade in a drunken fight. The gallows is built on the rock, wind howling off the Mediterranean. Albert arrives in tropical whites, rope coiled like a pet snake. The condemned man is 22, from Liverpool, still wearing his regimental tie. He asks for a last view of the sea. Albert allows it. They stand on the cliff edge together. The boy says, "Will it hurt, sir?" Albert answers, "No more than falling asleep." That night, Albert calculates the drop with sea salt in his hair. 7 foot 6 inches. He chalks the rope under moonlight. The execution is at dawn. The trap falls as the sun rises over Africa. The body swings against the most beautiful view in the empire. Next, Malta, 1949.
2 Maltese nationalists hanged for bombing a police station. The gallows is in the old fortress. Stone walls 400 years thick. The crowd outside screams for blood or mercy, impossible to tell. Albert works in silence. He hangs them both at sunrise. The ropes creak against history. Cyprus, 1950. EOKA fighters. Young men who want the British gone. Albert hangs 9 in 18 months. Each one defiant to the end. One spits in his face. Albert wipes it away and says, "Doesn't change the drop, son." Aden, 1951. A British officer's wife murdered. The killer is local. The hanging is public. Albert refuses. He hangs him inside the prison instead. He tells the governor, "Public hangings are for barbarians. We are British." Every colony is different. Different heat. Different smells. Different languages begging for mercy. But the rope is always the same. The calculation is always perfect. The drop is always clean. He never stays longer than necessary. He never takes souvenirs. He only leaves chalk marks on foreign ropes. And the quiet knowledge that the Empire's justice travels with one quiet Yorkshire man and his black bag. In 1950, he hangs the last colonial subject. A young man in Singapore who killed a British sergeant. The gallows is bamboo and rope, humid, insects everywhere. The boy asks for a priest. There is none. Albert says, "I'll stand in." He reads the 23rd Psalm while fitting the noose. The boy dies crying. Albert flies home the next day. He tells Annie, "No more abroad. I'm done being the Empire's traveling hangman." She nods. She knows the rope has started to feel heavier than the crimes. He will hang only in Britain now. Only when absolutely necessary. The royal tour is over. The sun is setting more than on the Empire. It is setting on the age when one man could carry Britain's justice in a black bag to the ends of the earth and bring it home without ever looking back. Albert Pierrepoint has hanged man under palm trees and fortress walls, in deserts and on cliffs, for king and country, and crimes the world wanted forgotten. He did his duty, cleanly, mercifully, perfectly. And when he finally closed the black bag for the last foreign flight, He left behind a trail of chalk marks on ropes that no wind will ever quite erase.
1956 to 1992. Help the Poor Struggler, Oldham Road. Then later, Rose and Crown, Southport. 2 pubs, 1 life after the rope. Albert Pierrepoint, retired, stands behind the bar in a cardigan, polishing glasses with the same hands that once tied 608 perfect nooses. The regulars call him Albie. They know. They never ask. But the pub becomes confession booth, graveyard, and church all at once. Every night after closing, when the lights are low and the last drunk has staggered home, the ghosts come out. They sit on the same stools. They order the same drinks. They never speak first. Albert pours them anyway. A pint of mild for the Irishman from Leeds, 1948. A small rum for the woman from Holloway, 1955. A whiskey for the Nazi doctor who begged in broken English. They watch him with eyes that never blink. He raises his glass to them. Clean drop, mate. They nod. Then they fade. Some nights, a new customer gets drunk and loud. He boasts about a fight, a robbery, a woman he hurt. The pub goes quiet. Albert leans across the bar, voice soft. "Careful what you confess, lad. Some sins follow you home." The man laughs, until he notices every regular staring at him like he's already dead. He leaves quickly. Annie, his second wife, watches from the kitchen doorway. She never asks who he talks to when the pub is empty. She only brings him cocoa at 2 a.m. when she finds him sitting alone with 6 full pints lined up on the bar. 1 for each innocent man he hanged. He never drinks them. He only lets them go flat. In 1974, he publishes his memoirs. The book signing in Manchester is packed. A young reporter asks, "Mr. Pierrepoint, do you ever dream about them?" Albert looks at him for a long time. "Every night," he says. "But they don't haunt me. I haunt them." The reporter laughs nervously. Albert does not. In the 1980s, an old man comes in on Remembrance Day. He is 90, trembling, wearing a faded RAF tie. He orders a pint, sits in the corner, cries silently. At closing, Albert locks the door, pours 2 whiskeys, sits opposite him. The old man whispers, "You hanged my brother. Desertion, 1942. He was 19. Albert nods. "I remember. 7 feet 10 inches. He asked for a cigarette. The old man sobs. "Was he afraid?" Albert answers, "He was brave. He said, 'Tell Mum I love her.' He never felt a thing." The old man finishes his whiskey, stands, and salutes. "Thank you." He leaves. Albert sits alone until dawn. In 1990, a woman in her 70s comes in. She orders a sherry. She says, "You hanged my mother, Ruth Ellis." Albert's hand does not shake as he pours. He says, "I know. She was the bravest I ever met." She cries. Albert cries, for the first time in public. She leaves a red lipstick on the bar. It stays there until the pub is sold. The ghosts grow quieter as the years pass, but they never leave. They sit in their usual places. They watch the new landlord. Albert sold the pub in 1989.
They watch the fruit machines and the jukebox, and the young people who have no idea what the building once was. Only Albert sees them. On the night before he dies, July 9th, 1992, he goes to the closed pub one last time. He stands behind the bar in the dark. He pours 608 pints, one for every soul. He raises his glass to the empty room, to clean drops and quiet endings. Then he walks out, locks the door, and never returns. The pub where death drank is now a curry house. The ghosts moved on. They followed the only man who ever treated them with respect. They followed Albert Pierrepoint to whatever comes after the last drop. And in the silence of closed pubs across England, on certain nights, when the lights are off and the beer pumps are still, you can still hear a soft voice polishing a glass and saying, to no one and to everyone, "Time, gentlemen, please. It's closing." Because even death has to go home eventually. And the hangman, finally, lets the last customer leave in peace.
1963 to 1965. Britain is changing. The Beatles are on the radio. Miniskirts are on the streets. And the death penalty is dying. Albert Pierrepoint is 58, retired, living quietly in Southport, walking the beach every morning, trying to forget the sound of a trapdoor falling. But the Home Office still keeps his name on the list. They call him one last time. August 13th, 1964, 8 a.m. Strangeways Prison, Manchester. Double execution. Peter Anthony Allen and Gwyn Owen Evans murdered a van driver for £11. They are the last two men to hang in Britain. Albert has not worn the white coat in 9 years. He puts it on one final time. It still fits perfectly. He drives to the prison in his own car. He does not speak to reporters camped outside. He walks through the gates like a ghost returning to its grave. Inside the chamber, the two men wait in separate cells. Allen is 21, baby-faced, crying. Evans is 24, hard, silent. Albert treats them exactly the same as the first man he hanged in 1932. Same calm voice, same gentle hands, same perfect calculation. Allen weighs 142 pounds, 7 feet 8 inches. Evans, 148 pounds, 7 feet 6 inches. He chalks two ropes side by side. He tests both drops with sandbags, both perfect. At 7:58 a.m., he brings Allen in first. The boy is sobbing. Albert places the cap. Allen whispers, "I'm scared." Albert answers, "Don't be. It's quick." He pulls the lever. Trapdoor falls. Snap. Silence. He repeats with Evans. Same calm, same mercy, same clean drop. Two bodies hang side by side. Two ropes creak in perfect rhythm. Albert signs the certificates. He is paid £30. He walks out of Strangeways for the last time. He drives home. He hangs the white coat in the wardrobe
and never touches it again. He tells Annie, that was the last. She asks, "Are you sure?" He answers, "The country is done with it. So am I." November 1965. Parliament votes to suspend capital punishment for murder. 5 years trial. The rope is cut. For good. Albert reads the news in his quiet Southport bungalow. He pours himself a whiskey. He raises the glass to the empty room, to the end of it. He does not smile. He only feels relief. In 1969, the suspension becomes permanent. Capital punishment is abolished forever. Albert is 64. He spends the rest of his life refusing interviews, refusing fame, refusing to be celebrated. He tells one reporter who finds him on the beach, "I was only doing a job the country no longer wants. Good." He dies quietly in 1992. No headlines, no crowds, just a small funeral, a few old warders, a few reporters who remember, and one woman, Annie, who stood by him through every drop. At the graveside, an old prison governor says, "He was the best we ever had, and the last." The rope that began in a Bradford coal shed in 1905 ends in a Southport cemetery in 1992. 608 drops, 0 mistakes, 0 suffering, and one man who carried the weight of every single one until the day he died. The empire fell. The rope was cut, the gallows were torn down, but the echo remains. In every courtroom where a life sentence is passed instead of death. In every quiet moment when a judge says life and means it. In every child who will never see a scaffold. Albert Pierrepoint, the boy who played with Nooses, the apprentice who perfected death, the hangman who questioned the rope, and the man who walked away when the country finally caught up with his doubt. The last executions were not the end of crime. They were the end of an era. And the man who closed that era did it with the same steady hands that once tied the knots that ended it. The empire fell quietly. No trumpets, no cheers. Just a white coat folded away, and a rope, finally, allowed to rest. 1947 to 1956. The war is over. The monsters are hanged. The world is supposed to feel clean. Albert Pierrepoint is 41, famous, respected, rich. He owns 2 pubs, a nice house, a car. He is the most sought-after hangman in Britain. But the cracks begin. Small at first, a tremor in the left hand when he ties his tie, a hesitation before chalking the rope, a dream where the condemned man is always the same faceless child. He starts drinking more. He starts smoking more. He starts waking at 3 a.m. with the taste of prison soap in his mouth. One morning in 1949, he is scheduled to hang a man in Birmingham. He weighs him the night before, 142 pounds, 7 feet, 8 inches. He chalks the rope. He tests the drop. He lies down on the cot in the execution suite and closes his eyes. He dreams the drop is wrong. The man chokes. The face turns purple. The legs kick for 5 full minutes. Albert wakes screaming. The warder finds him on the floor, white coat soaked with sweat. He still carries out the execution at 8 a.m. Clean, perfect. But the dream stays. He starts keeping a second secret notebook. In it, he writes the names of men he hanged who were later cleared by new evidence. There are 6 by 1950. 6 men who died innocent. He never speaks of them. He only adds their names in pencil, then rubs them out, then writes them again. He starts refusing certain jobs. He turns down a hanging in 1951 because the man is only 19. He turns down another because the prisoner is mentally disabled. The Home Office is furious. They remind him he is on the list. He reminds them the list is voluntary. He starts writing letters to MPs arguing against capital punishment. He never sends them. He burns them in the pub fireplace. Annie finds the ashes. She asks, "Albert, do you believe in it anymore?" He answers, "I never believed in it. I believed in doing it right." She asks, "And now?" He looks at her for a long time. "Now I'm not sure what right is." In 1955, he hangs Ruth Ellis. The country riots. Petitions with 1 million signatures beg for mercy. He hangs her anyway. Afterward, he sits in the Holloway execution chamber alone for 2 hours. He takes the rope in his hands. He ties the knot. He unties it. He ties it again. He cannot stop. A wardress finds him at noon, still tying and untying the same knot. He resigns 6 months later. He writes to the Home Office, "I have come to the conclusion that capital punishment achieves nothing except revenge. I no longer wish to be part of it." They beg him to stay. He refuses. He walks away from the rope forever. He sells the pubs. He buys a small house in Southport. He lives quietly. He writes his memoirs in 1974. He calls the book Executioner, Pierrepoint. In it, he writes the sentence that ends his life's work. "The fruit of my experience has this bitter aftertaste, that I do not now believe that any of the hundreds of executions I carried out has in any way acted as a deterrent to murder. They were an antidote to murder, and in my view, that is a very different thing." The man who once said, "Justice must be clean," now says, "Justice was murder." He spends his last years by the sea, walking the beach at dawn, watching gulls wheel over the water. He tells a reporter in 1992, the year he dies, "I hanged 608 people. Some were monsters. Some were just broken. None of them came back to thank me, and none of them needed to die." He dies on July 10, 1992, age 87. No fanfare, no headlines, just a quiet old man in a quiet town. The hangman's doubt finally won. It took 50 years, 608 drops, and one question that never stopped asking. Was it justice or only vengeance wearing a white coat? Albert Pierrepoint, the best hangman Britain ever had, spent the second half of his life trying to forgive himself for being too good at a job the world finally decided should never exist. The rope is silent now, but the doubt still swings.
October 1945 to December 1946. Hamelin Prison, British Zone, Germany. A purpose-built triple gallows in the old gymnasium. Albert Pierrepoint stands in the cold, white coat spotless, rope coiled like a sleeping cobra. Before him, the worst monsters in human history. Josef Kramer, the beast of Belsen. Irma Gries, the beautiful beast. Johanna Bormann, the woman with the dogs. Elizabeth Volkenrath, the sadist of the women's camp. 11 at a time. Albert treats them exactly the same as every British murderer. Same calm voice, same gentle hands, same perfect drop. He weighs them the night before in the prison hospital. Kramer, 178 pounds, 6 feet 8 inches. Gries, 112 pounds, 8 feet exactly. Bormann, 124 pounds, 7 feet 6 inches. He chalks the ropes himself. He tests with sandbags. He adjusts for German height, German bone density, German fear. He never speaks their crimes aloud. He does not need to. The smell of Belsen still clings to their uniforms. On December 13, 1945, the first 11 stand on the trap. British officers watch in silence. Albert works like a priest at a mass execution. He pinions Kramer first. The beast of Belsen is shaking so hard the leg irons rattle. Albert whispers, "Steady, sir. It will be quick." Kramer looks at him with eyes that have seen hell and realizes he is now inside it. Gries is last. She is 22, blonde, lipstick still perfect. She asks for a cigarette. Albert lights it for her. She smiles. "Thank you, Englishman." He places the cap over her face. She does not flinch. He slips the noose. He steps back. The commanding officer raises his hand. Albert pulls 3 levers at once. 3 traps fall. 3 ropes sing. 3 necks snap in perfect harmony. 11 bodies hang still. The gymnasium is silent except for the soft creak of rope on beam. Albert counts the swings. Average, 1 minute 21 seconds. He signs 11 certificates. He drinks tea with the officers. He does not speak. He does not sleep. He repeats the ritual 13 more times over 13 months. 202 names. 202 perfect drops. He never raises his voice. He never shows hate. He never refuses a last cigarette. When a condemned doctor from Auschwitz begs for mercy, Albert answers, "Mercy is what I give you. The rope is the mercy." He hangs him anyway. When Irma Gries asks to die with her hair uncovered, he refuses. Regulation cap, regulation drop, regulation death. When Josef Kramer asks if his wife will be told he died bravely, Albert answers, "She will be told you died quickly. No more, no less." In October 1946, he hangs the last one, a doctor who injected children with petrol. The man is crying so hard he cannot stand. Albert holds him up with one arm while fitting the noose with the other. He whispers, "It's over." The drop is perfect. Albert packs his bag for the final time in Germany. He walks out of Hamelin prison into a snow that has not stopped falling since 1945. He lights a cigarette. A British officer approaches. "How many was it, Pierrepoint?"
Albert answers without looking back. Enough. He sails home. He never returns to Germany. He never speaks of those 13 months. But every night for the rest of his life, when he closes his eyes, he sees 11 ropes hanging in perfect silence against a background of snow that will never quite melt. The Nazi war criminals met their end at the hands of a man who treated them with the same professional care he gave to every petty thief in Leeds. Because to Albert Pierrepoint, evil weighed the same as innocence on the scales of justice. And the rope never asked what the man had done, only how much he weighed and how far he had to fall to make the world a little cleaner.
July 13th, 1955, 8:59 a.m. Holloway Prison, London. The women's execution chamber. Smaller, quieter, painted pale green like a hospital ward. Albert Pierrepoint, 50, stands in the doorway in his white coat, rope coiled over his arm like a sleeping snake. He has hanged 434 people. Today will be 435. And the first thing he notices is the perfume. Ruth Ellis, 32, platinum blonde, red lipstick perfect, stands on the chalk tee wearing a gray prison dress and high-heeled court shoes. She is smoking a cigarette with the calm of a woman ordering tea. She sees Albert and smiles. "Morning, Mr. Pierrepoint. You're early." He has never been spoken to like this before. He answers automatically. "Good morning, Miss Ellis." She drops the cigarette, crushes it with a twist of her heel. "Shall we get on with it? I've a hair appointment at 10. The wardresses choke back tears. Albert does not. He steps forward. He weighs her the night before, 104 pounds. Drop, 8 feet exactly. He tested it 3 times with a sandbag. Perfect. He fits the leather body belt. Ruth jokes, "Mind the dress, love. It's the only decent one I've got." He places the white cap over her perfect 1950s hair. She says through the cloth, "Tell David I'm sorry, and tell the papers I looked fabulous." He slips the noose over her head. She is so light the rope barely moves. He steps back. The governor, ashen, gives the signal. Albert pulls the lever. The trap falls with a soft thud. The rope sings. The body drops. The neck snaps with the gentlest sound Albert has ever heard, like a porcelain cup breaking in another room. Silence. Then the soft creak of rope on beam. The doctor pronounces death in 9 seconds. Albert counts the swing anyway. 1 minute, 11 seconds. He writes in the log, "Instantaneous, lightest subject on record." He is paid 15 pounds. He folds the money and puts it in his pocket. Then he does something he has never done before. He sits down on the scaffold steps and lights a cigarette with shaking hands. A wardress finds him there 10 minutes later. He is staring at the empty noose. She asks, "Are you all right, Mr. Pierrepoint?" He answers, voice barely a whisper, "She was too light. I gave her too much drop." The wardress says nothing. She knows what he means. Ruth Ellis weighed 104 pounds. The table said 8 feet. But women's necks are different. Smaller vertebrae, softer tissue. Albert gave her the full drop. The neck did not just break, it stretched. Some say the head came dangerously close to parting. No one will ever know for sure, but Albert knows. He feels it in his bones.
He sees it every night for the rest of his life. Ruth Ellis walking toward him in the pub, high heels clicking, cigarette glowing, asking, "Was it quick, love?" And he cannot answer, because for the first time in 435 executions, he is not sure. Ruth Ellis was the last woman hanged in Britain. She was the one who knew too much about love, about jealousy, about a gun in a handbag outside a pub in Hampstead. And she was the one who knew too little about the quiet man in the white coat who would carry her perfume and her smile and her joke about a hair appointment to his grave. Albert never hanged another woman. He resigned 6 months later. He told the Home Office, "I have done my duty, but I will not do it again." They asked why. He answered, "Because some necks are too small for the rope we are asked to use." Ruth Ellis knew too much about dying young. Albert Pierrepoint learned too much about living with it. And in the soft green chamber at Holloway, on a summer morning in 1955, the hangman finally met a woman who was braver than the rope.
Strangeways Prison, Manchester. A cold stone room that smells of carbolic, fear, and old blood. Albert Pierrepoint, 18, stands in the execution chamber for the first time as official assistant. His uncle Tom Pierrepoint, legendary hangman, 294 drops, stands beside him in the regulation white coat. Henry Pierrepoint, father, 321 drops, watches from the doorway, arms folded, face unreadable. The condemned man, Patrick McKenna, murderer, stands on the trap marked with a chalk T. He is shaking so hard the leg irons rattle. Albert's hands do not shake. Tom hands him the white cotton cap. "Place it gentle, lad. He's still a human being." Albert steps forward. His fingers, those same fingers that tied clothesline knots at age 6, move with the calm of a surgeon. He pulls the cap down over McKenna's eyes. The man whispers, "Thank you, sir." Albert's heart beats once hard. Then it steadies. Tom hands him the noose. Albert slips it over the head, seats the eye behind the left ear exactly as the table demands. He tightens it with 2 fingers space, no more, no less. He steps back. Tom nods. Henry nods. Albert takes the pinioning strap. Left wrist to left ankle. Right wrist to right ankle. Elbows belted. 17 seconds. Record time. The chaplain finishes the prayer. The governor gives the signal. Tom pulls the lever. The trap falls with a crash like thunder in a tin box. The rope sings. The body drops. The neck snaps with a sound like a branch breaking in winter. Silence. Then the soft creak of rope on beam. Albert counts the swing. 1 minute, 41 seconds until stillness. Tom claps him on the shoulder. "Clean drop, lad. Your father taught you well." Henry says nothing. He only looks at his son with eyes that finally show something like pride. Afterward, in the little room where they drink tea and fill the forms, the prison doctor examines the body. Instantaneous. Vertebrae C2 and C3 perfectly dislocated. One of the cleanest I've seen. Albert signs the certificate with a steady hand. Name, Albert Pierrepoint. Role, Assistant Executioner. Number of executions assisted? 1. He is paid £1.10 plus traveling expenses. He folds the money into his pocket and feels nothing.
No joy, no horror. Only the quiet satisfaction of a job done perfectly. On the train home, he sits alone in an empty compartment. He takes out the chalk stub he used to mark the rope. He writes on the window glass, 7 feet 2 inch, 154 pounds, perfect. Then he wipes it clean. At home, his mother waits at the door. She searches his face for the boy who once cried when the cat died. She finds only the man who has just killed for the first time. She asks, "Was it terrible?" He answers, "It was necessary." Then he goes to the shed, hangs the white coat on a nail, and begins oiling the rope for the next one. By 1928, he is assisting on every major execution in the North. By 1931, he is ready for his first solo. He never looks back. He never flinches. He never speaks of the dreams where the condemned man is always himself. He only perfects the craft, the drop calculated to the 1/4 inch, the knot placed with the precision of a watchmaker, the body given the quickest, cleanest death the law allows. Mercy measured in feet and inches. Death delivered with the calm of a man posting a letter. The apprentice has become the master, and the craft that began with a clothesline in a coal shed has become the most feared and respected name on the Home Office list. Albert Pierrepoint, #1 executioner. The boy who played with nooses has learned to tie them so perfectly that even the dead thank him on the way down.
Not the prisoner's name, not the crime, the weight. Albert Pierrepoint stands alone in the execution chamber the night before, coat off, sleeves rolled, a single lamp burning. On the table, the Home Office Table of Drops, revised 1913, yellowed but sacred. He opens his black notebook. He writes the prisoner's name in neat copperplate, then the date, then the prison, then the single most important number of that man's life. Weight in pounds, taken that morning on the medical scales, clothes removed, no shoes. Example: John Smith, Wandsworth, 14 March 1949, 154 pounds. Albert turns to the table. 154 pounds equals 7 feet 2 inches exactly. He writes it down. Then he takes the rope, best Italian hemp, 1 inch thick, boiled, waxed, tested. He measures from the ring bolt in the beam. He marks the exact spot with white chalk. He tests with a sandbag of identical weight. He drops it. He times the swing. He adjusts by 1/4 inches until the neck would break perfectly between the 2nd and 3rd cervical vertebrae. No choke, no decapitation, just the clean, quiet snap of justice. He does this for every single one. Men, women, spies, traitors, murderers, Nazis. Every body is different. Tall men need shorter drops. Fat men need longer. Thin necks need care. Thick necks need force. He keeps a private table for women, slightly shorter drop, softer rope. He never writes it down officially. He keeps it in his head. He has memorized every variation. He can look at a man once and know the drop to the inch. He never guesses. He never rushes. He never makes a mistake. Not once. Not in 608 executions. The calculation is everything. The calculation is mercy. If the drop is too short, the man strangles slowly, face turning purple, legs kicking, tongue out. If the drop is too long, the head comes off. Albert has seen both early in his uncle's career. He swore it would never happen on his rope, and it never did. He works by candlelight, alone the night before. He weighs the sandbag himself. He chalks the rope himself. He oils the hinge himself. He tests the trap 3 times. He stands where the prisoner will stand and looks up at the noose, imagining the face that will be under it tomorrow. He whispers the same words every time. "Quick and clean, lad. Quick and clean." Some nights he dreams the numbers. 7 feet 4 inches, 6 feet 10 inches, 8 feet exactly. He wakes sweating, checks the table again. He keeps a secret ledger. Every execution, every weight, every drop, every result. All perfect, all instantaneous. He never shows it to anyone, not even Annie. It is his rosary, his proof to God that he never once let a man suffer. When people ask how he can be so calm, he answers, "It's simple arithmetic. Do the sum right, and nobody hurts." They think he is joking. He is not. The long drop calculation is not science. It is prayer in numbers. It is the only way a hangman can sleep at night. It is the thin, unbreakable thread between murder and mercy. Albert Pierrepoint spent 33 years turning human beings into equations and solving every single one perfectly. Weight, length, force. Life ends. Pain does not begin. That is the craft. That is the code. That is the man. And every chalk mark he ever made on a rope was a promise that the last thing the condemned would feel was nothing at all. 1947 to 1956. Help the poor struggler. Oldham Road, Manchester. A small brick pub with frosted windows, a dartboard, and a landlord who has hanged more people than the entire British judiciary combined. Albert Pierrepoint, 42, stands behind the bar in a cardigan and tie, polishing glasses with the same hands that tied 435 perfect nooses. The regulars call him Albie. They know what he does. They never speak of it, not directly. They just drink a little quieter when he is near. The pub is his cover, his refuge, his confession booth. He bought it in 1946 with execution money. He and Annie run it together. She pulls pints with a smile that never quite reaches her eyes. He keeps the black bag in the cellar, locked in a cupboard behind the barrels. The rope is still oiled, the white coat still pressed. Every Monday morning he leaves before opening time, kisses Annie on the cheek, and catches the train to wherever the home office sends him. He's back by Wednesday night, sleeves rolled, asking, "Any trouble while I was away?" The regulars laugh nervously. "Only the usual drunks, Albie." They never ask where he has been. They read the papers. They know. One night in 1950, a new customer,
loud London accent, gets drunk and starts boasting about a murder he once committed. The pub goes dead silent. The man does not notice. He slaps the bar and shouts, "I bashed her head in and laughed." Albert continues polishing a glass, slowly, deliberately. Then he leans forward and says, very softly, "I hanged the man who did that. Leeds, 1948. Clean drop." The man goes white. He leaves his pint half full and never returns. Another night, a woman in mourning veil sits alone in the corner for 3 hours. Finally, she approaches the bar. She places a photograph on the counter. A young man in RAF uniform. "My son," she whispers. "They hanged him for desertion. Was it quick?" Albert looks at the photo for a long time. Then he answers, voice gentle, 7 feet 2 inches, ma'am. He never felt a thing." She cries without sound. He pours her a small sherry on the house. She leaves the photo. It stays behind the bar for 10 years. Regulars toasted every Remembrance Day. Some nights, the pub is full of ghosts only Albert can see. He pours pints for men who are not there. He nods at empty chairs. He raises a glass to no one and says, "Clean drop, mate." Annie watches from the kitchen doorway and says nothing. She knows the war never left him. She knows the rope never left the house. One regular, old Tommy who fought at the Somme, asked one night after closing, "Albie, do they ever come back?" Albert locks the door, turns off the lights, stands in the dark with Tommy. Then he answers, "Every night, Tommy. Every single night." He never tells Annie, but sometimes at 3 a.m. she wakes to find the bed empty. She goes downstairs. Albert is sitting at the bar in the dark, white coat on, rope in his hands, running his thumb along the lay of the strands. She does not speak. She only sits beside him, puts her head on his shoulder. They stay like that until dawn. The pub where death drinks is warm, friendly, ordinary. The beer is good. The darts are sharp. The landlord is the kindest man in Manchester. And every pint he pours is bought with money earned by making the world a little quieter, one drop at a time. The regulars love him. They fear him. They need him. Because in a country that still believes in the rope, Albert Pierrepoint is the only man who can make death feel like mercy. And every night when the last customer leaves and the lights go out, the pub falls silent, except for the soft creak of a rope that never quite stops swinging.
November 30th, 1932, 7:58 a.m. Leeds Prison, Armley. Cold enough to see your soul leave your body. Albert Pierrepoint, 27, stands in the execution chamber alone with the condemned man. White coat, spotless, hands steady, face calm. The prisoner is Patrick Power, 32, Irish laborer, convicted of murdering his landlady with a hammer. He is drunk on the prison rum ration, swaying, singing a hymn in Gaelic. Albert fits the leather body belt. Power slurs, "You're a good lad. Make it quick." Albert answers softly, "I always do."
He places the white cap over Power's head. The singing stops. He slips the noose over, seats the eye behind left ear. He steps back. The prison governor, doctor, and 2 warders stand in silence. Albert looks at the chalk mark on the floor, his own foot exactly where it must be. He checks the sandbag test from the night before, 7 foot 4 inch for 152 pounds. Perfect. He nods to the governor. The governor nods back. Albert pulls the lever. The trap crashes open. The rope sings. The body drops. The neck snaps with the clean sound of green wood breaking. Silence. Then the soft creak of rope on beam. Albert counts. 17 seconds until the doctor pronounces death. He writes in the log, "Instantaneous, no suffering." He is paid £10 for his first solo execution. He folds the money into his pocket and walks out into the prison yard. The sky is the color of wet slate. He lights a cigarette with hands that do not shake. But inside, something does. He thinks of Power's last words. He thinks of the hammer. He thinks of the landlady's skull. He thinks, guilty. Then he thinks, what if he wasn't? The thought is small. It is quiet. But it is there. He pushes it down. He has a train to catch. Back home in Manchester, his wife Annie, the second Annie, gentle, church-going, meets him at the door. She searches his face. How was it? He answers, clean. She kisses him. He smells of prison soap and something else she cannot name. That night he sits in the kitchen with a whiskey he does not drink. He opens his notebook and writes the first entry under his own name. Patrick Power, Leeds, 30 November 1932, 152 pounds, 7 feet 4 inch. Instantaneous. He stares at the word instantaneous for a long time. Then he adds something he will never write again. Guilty? ? He underlines it twice, then tears the page out and burns it in the stove. The next morning he is back at the pub he runs with Annie, pouring pints, smiling at customers, telling jokes. No one knows what he did yesterday. No one ever will. But every time a customer says, "Make it quick, Albert," he flinches inside. He keeps the white coat in a locked trunk under the bar. He oils the rope once a month, whether it needs it or not. He practices the drop calculation in his head while pulling pints. He never misses. By 1939, he has 108 executions, all clean, all instantaneous, all, he tells himself, guilty. But the question from that first morning never quite goes away. It sits in the corner of every chamber. It watches from the shadows of every noose. It whispers when the trap falls, innocent or guilty. He answers it the only way he knows how, by making sure no man ever suffers on his rope, by turning death into a craft so perfect it feels like mercy, by becoming the best hangman England ever had, because if the job must be done, let it be done by the man who can do it, without ever letting the condemned feel pain. even if the hangman sometimes feels it for the rest of his life. The first drop was not the hardest because of the neck that broke. It was the hardest because it was the first time Albert Pierrepoint understood that some questions have no answer, except the silence after the rope goes tight. And from that morning forward, every execution was a conversation with that silence.
September 1945, December 1946. Germany lies in smoking ruins. The Reich is dead, but its butchers still breathe. Britain needs a hangman who can work fast, clean, and without drama. They send for Albert Pierrepoint. He is 40, at the absolute peak of his craft. He has hanged 198 men and women since 1932. Every drop perfect. Now they give him the darkest list in history. The Belsen 45, the Hamburg-Ravensbrück trials, the Hangman Nazi mass executions, 202 names, all guilty beyond imagination. Albert crosses the channel with his black bag and a letter from the War Office. You are authorized to carry out any sentence of death passed by British military courts in the British zone. No limit. He lands in a Germany that looks like the end of the world. Berlin is rubble. Hamelin prison is intact. Its gallows specially rebuilt by the Royal Engineers. Albert inspects the new trap. He tests it with sandbags. He adjusts the trap table for German weights. They use pillows. He converts in his head. He chalks the ropes himself. He works in silence. The first batch is 11 Belsen guards on December 13th, 1945. Irma Grace, the beautiful beast, 22 years old, blonde, unrepentant. Joseph Kramer, the beast of Belsen himself. Elizabeth Volkenrath, Juana Bormann, and 7 others. Albert treats them exactly like every British murderer. Same white coat, same calm voice, same gentle hands. Grace asks for lipstick. He allows it. Kramer asks for a cigarette. He lights it for him. At 9:34 a.m., the traps open 11 times in perfect sequence. 11 necks snap like dry twigs. 11 bodies hang still. Albert counts the swings. Average 1 minute 21 seconds. He signs the certificates. He drinks tea with the British officers. He goes back to the cells for the next batch. Over 13 months, he hanged 202 war criminals. Sometimes 13 in one morning, sometimes alone, sometimes with his Uncle Tom assisting. He never raises his voice. He never shows anger. He never refuses a last cigarette. When a condemned man asks why he is so calm, Albert answers, "Because this is justice, not revenge, and justice must be clean." The press calls him the Avenger. He hates the name.
1911 to 1918. Clayton, Manchester. A back-to-back street where the sun only reaches the yard for 43 minutes a day. Albert Pierrepoint is 6. The coal shed at the bottom of the yard has become his cathedral. Inside, a single beam, a clothesline stolen from his mother's washing, and a collection of sand-filled flour sacks labeled in chalk with weights. 112 pound, 134 pound, 168 pound, 201 pound. He drags them out every afternoon after school. He ties the running bowline exactly 13 coils from the end, the way his father showed him. He loops it over the beam. He measures the drop with a stick marked in inches. He pushes the sack off the orange box. He counts the swing. 4 minutes and 11 seconds until it stops. He writes the number in a school experiments book. His mother finds the book. She beats him with the clothes prop until his legs are striped red. He does not cry. He only asks, "Was the knot good, ma'am?" She burns the book. He starts another the next day. At 7, he can pinion a fence post in 19 seconds flat. Left wrist to left ankle, right wrist to right ankle, elbows belted, no slack. He times himself with his father's spare stopwatch. He beats the record every week. At 8, he builds a working trap door from orange boxes and a broken gate hinge. He tests it with the 150-pound sack. The drop is perfect. The sack's neck snaps with a sound like green wood breaking. He smiles for the first time anyone can remember. His older brother Harry laughs and calls him Little Jack Ketch. Albert answers, "I'll be better than Dad." Harry stops laughing. War breaks out. Henry is away more than ever. Spies, traitors, deserters. Albert, 9, waits at the gate for the postman every morning. When the buff envelope arrives, he knows his father has worked. He runs to the shed and adds another chalk mark on the beam. 1 mark for every drop. By Christmas 1916, there are 47 marks. At 10, he is caught in the school playground. He has tied a running noose around the neck of the headmaster's cat and is about to push it off the climbing frame. The headmaster drags him home by the ear. Henry listens to the story without expression. When the headmaster leaves, Henry does not shout. He only says, "Never animals, son. Only men who have earned it." Albert nods. He never touches another living thing. But he keeps the rope. At night, he sleeps with it under his pillow, like other boys keep toy soldiers. He dreams in measurements. 7 feet 4 inches for 130 pounds. 6 feet 8 for 150 pounds. 5 feet 10 for 180 pounds. He wakes calm. He wakes ready. His mother finds him on the coal shed roof at midnight, clothesline coiled in his lap, staring at the moon. She climbs the ladder, tears streaming. "Albert, promise me you'll be something else, a teacher, a clerk, anything." He looks down at her with eyes already older than the century. "I can't, ma'am. The rope talks to me." She slaps him hard. The sound echoes down the street like a trapdoor falling. He does not flinch. He only coils the rope tighter. The war ends. Henry comes home thinner, quieter. He finds 11-year-old Albert in the shed, pinioning a new 175-pound sack with surgical fast. 17 seconds. Henry watches for a full minute. Then he speaks the words that seal everything. "You're ready, lad. When you're 16, I'll put your name on the list." Albert does not cheer. He only nods once, the way his father nods when a drop is perfect. That night, he takes the clothesline, cuts it to exact length, and hangs it from the beam like a trophy. He stands beneath it for a long time. He is not playing anymore. He is waiting. Because the boy who played with nooses has become the boy who understands them. And somewhere in the dark streets of Clayton, the rope that has been coiled since the day he was born finally begins to feel the weight of the man it was always meant to carry. The childhood games are over. The apprenticeship has begun. And the beam in the coal shed has already started counting the 608 souls who one day will swing gently beneath Albert Pierrepoint's perfect, merciful knot.
June 30th, 1905, Cheapside, Bradford. A narrow, terraced street that smells of coal smoke, wet wool, and boiled cabbage. Inside number 27, the gas mantle flickers low. Henry Pierrepoint, 37, sits at the kitchen table in his shirt sleeves, polishing a brass stopwatch that has timed more drops than most men have birthdays. His black leather execution bag rests on the chair beside him like a sleeping dog. Upstairs, Annie is in labor. The midwife, Mrs. O'Brien, has been with her since dawn. The screams come in waves, each one thinner than the last. Henry does not move. He has hanged men for less noise. At 4:17 p.m., the crying stops. Mrs. O'Brien comes down the narrow stairs, wiping her hands on a blood-specked apron. It's a boy. She pauses. Strong lungs. Henry nods once, closes the stopwatch with a soft click, and pours himself a small whiskey. He does not go upstairs yet. Annie has already named the child Albert. Albert, noble and bright. She whispers it like a charm against the darkness that has lived in the house since the day she married a hangman. When Henry finally climbs the stairs, the room is dim, lit only by a single candle on the dresser. Annie is pale, hair stuck to her forehead, but her eyes are fierce. She holds the child out. Henry takes him carefully, as though the baby is made of glass. The infant's tiny fist opens and closes, already searching for something to grip. Henry notices the boy's fingers, long, steady, perfect for knots. He does not smile, but something shifts behind his eyes. He places the child back in Annie's arms and says the only words he will ever say about the future. "He'll do." Annie begins to cry. She knows exactly what "he'll do" means. Downstairs, the black bag waits. Inside, a coil of best Italian hemp, 1 inch thick, boiled, waxed, and tested on sandbags until it runs like silk. A leather strap for the wrists, a white cotton cap, a pinioning belt, and the home office table, printed in neat columns, weight in pounds, drop in feet and inches, force required for instantaneous dislocation of the cervical vertebrae, mercy measured in inches. Henry opens the bag, removes the rope, and lays it across the kitchen table like a sleeping serpent. He runs his thumb along the lay of the strands, feeling for imperfections. There are none. He looks toward the ceiling where his newborn son breathes his first polluted Yorkshire air, and he speaks so quietly only the rope hears him. "Welcome to the family trade, lad." Outside, the factory hooters sound for the end of the late shift. Inside, a new hangman is born. Not in blood or pain, but in the soft click of a stopwatch and the hush that falls when a father recognizes his successor. Annie will fight it for 19 years. She will beg, threaten, pray. She will lose, because the rope is already in the blood. It has been in the blood since Henry's own father took the contract in 1878. It will be in the blood until Albert himself cuts the last one down in 1964. But on this night, in a terraced house, lit by one candle and one gas mantle, a boy is born who will one day stand on scaffolds from Gibraltar to Hamelin, who will calculate mercy in feet and inches, who will send 608 souls through a trapdoor with the same hands that now grip his mother's finger. Albert Pierrepoint opens his eyes for the first time. The candle flickers, the rope waits downstairs, and the family trade claims another life before it has even drawn its second breath.